Well, how can I explain my current situation? The simplest way to put it is that I work for the devil. Not in the way that you would imagine, though. I'm not going to remote places with a black hood to sacrifice kids and animals to the almighty Lucifer. That would actually be a marginally better job, save for how blatant it is. I would rather draw pentagrams than do what I do now. I work as a clerk, or you could say a receptionist, or a judge, or all the above. I think that this is my punishment after I died, and you'd be right. But it was also from necessity on the boss part. For most of human history, the boss, aka the devil, did most of the paperwork and judging, since there were not as many humans. He would hire some part-timers to help him if there was a major plague or a war. But for the most part, he was the sole person to decide your fate, to which part of hell that you would go, for the punishment for your crimes and the time sentence. Yes, there is a time sentence for most crimes, though they work slightly different than in the mortal plane. The highest one is simply being labeled as infinity, and you can have a guess who is reserved to that sentence. But I digress. Ever since humanity managed to prosper and multiply at a great speed, and the massive wars and plagues that ravaged mankind throughout the last 2 to 3 centuries, the boss needed some permanent employees to do the judging for him. And even if there are thousands of us, if not more, there is still a long waiting list. Mankind became such a headache that even the devil himself can't do all the work. Same goes even for God, from what I've heard. As for myself, how and why did I get to the position in which I currently am in? The answer for the how was rather simple. I died, and I didn't have a saintly life. As to why, I was adjudged to be somewhere in the middle of the spectrum of morals. I never did anything really bad. I never killed anyone nor physically hurt anyone. I never stole anything, nor am I an adulterer. But on the flip side, I was never really generous, nor was I a friendly type. I rarely showed affection or sympathy, having the mentality of, it's your problem, not mine. I'm not a psychopath or a sociopath. If I see someone suffering, I would feel bad. But I would oftentimes rationalize that fact to myself as, that's life, and it's their own fault. Or I shouldn't pry into someone else's life. That on its own wasn't the only reason that I was selected. I worked as a bank receptionist in my past life. I would put up a fake smile and help people ruin their lives with massive loans that they would regret soon after, as well as see those same people break down as they find out the government is taking their house and car, informing people that they are going to a world of suffering for hundreds, thousands, millions, or even billions of years with the occasional forever. It has similar results. Now, to get to the job itself. The way that I got it was that a clerk, as myself now, went through my file and deemed me adequate for the position of clerk, since there was a spike in demand. My contract is permanent, unless mankind's numbers decrease significantly, or we go extinct, which we will eventually, probably. After almost 5 years of experience, I think that I got an idea of what the job entails. I am by far not the most experienced. There are people with over a century of work experience, but those guys are new to the internet, so they won't write. We are allowed to use the net to gauge how much traffic there's going to be, like if there are any wars, diseases, etc. And the boss really loves to browse the human web for entertainment, to see how we react from the torment that he causes, and that we cause ourselves. And now that I have some free time, I decided to write this. Is it allowed? Absolutely not. Did I find a loophole to exploit, thus making me immune from the wrath of the devil himself for the time being? Absolutely. But it comes with its own risk. The devil isn't the type that will always follow the rules. As I mentioned, he does browse the net. So there is a small chance that this will go under his nose, but also a chance that he finds this. And he won't give a crap about the fine print when he sees what I've written. and God knows what he'll do if he does find this. Now, for the work itself. Working in hell, you would imagine being surrounded by fire and brimstone and screaming souls of the deceased. But that isn't the case. I am located in the middle ground, or purgatory. There are 3 levels, better said megacities, that are responsible for judgment. The first level is entry. They're the souls of the recently deceased are screened for sins and virtues, the good and the bad. It's a relatively quick process, taking up to 3 months on average. After you've been screened, you are sent to one of the 2 other megacities, to us in Hell Incorporated, or to Heaven Incorporated, where you'll be further assessed to which part of heaven or hell you'll be designated. And that's my job. I wake up in the morning, yes, we need to sleep, eat, drink, and crap like you. Why? Because we aren't truly dead, and we still have to do our mortal needs. If we don't, we won't die per se, but it won't be pleasant. Anyways, after I wake up in my apartment in one of the many city blocks where the employees and those who are waiting to be judged reside, I do my morning routine and prepare for the 18-hour shift. I don't have to commute, thanks to the devil. I only need to exit my apartment in a specific time, and I'll teleport to my workplace instantly. And when I come to my desk, I prepare my paperwork, see who has priority and who has been put lower on the list. I open up shop and I start calling out names. After the person comes and sits down, I opened up their file, analyze their doings in broad terms, and I start questioning them. During the questioning, I need to ascertain their responsibility for certain crimes. For example, if we have a murderer, did he or she kill the other because of hatred, passion, self-defense, revenge, accident, or among many other things? In other words, we need to find out if it was intentional or unintentional. There's a lot of questioning and rummaging through paperwork for that, and it can take a few hours with each client. Other crimes might include theft. If that's the case, I have to find out if the person stole the thing because of greed, necessity, or accident. Now, people do steal things on accident. You might have taken someone's phone thinking that it was yours. So, in short, with the example of theft, you have subcategories which state the broad reason, and then there are categories under those which ascertain the object's worth and to which category it belongs to. In other words, it's a necklace, a vehicle, a TV, or whatever. Under that, we have the object's worth to the individual being robbed and its effects on that person, as well as the way in which it was stolen. Was it an armed robbery or not, etc. Kleptomaniacs and serial killers are a nightmare to judge, because we have to catalog every object stolen and person murdered, from cookies stolen when they're 4 years old to the killing sprees. The longest case I had was for a kleptomaniac and a hoarder who killed his mother because she had placed his action figure at the wrong place. It took me the entire freaking shift to judge that guy, and I had to have a poker face the whole way through, and in the end, answer any questions that he might have. Now that we've done all of this, sir, before you go to the 6th level, do you have any questions which you would deem important? Are there any cat girls or horned girls there? Horn? No. There are none to my knowledge. Is there anything else? Is there internet? No, there's no internet connection for the duration of your stay, which is, I might repeat, 32,486 years. Now please stand up and take that elevator over there so I don't call in security. That is not an extreme case. It's annoying, but it's nothing compared to some special cases. I had a guy who thought he was doing the will of God by turning a bulldozer into a tank and ramming everyone who wronged him over, destroying millions of property. By some miracle, he didn't kill anyone. He pleaded insanity, but I had to explain to him that there is no plea of insanity in hell. Though there is a category which investigates whether or not the person had any mental health problems or had a corrupted soul. All of that is needed to be confirmed. In the end, he ended up having quite a light sentence when you add up the points. He didn't kill anyone. All the damage he did was legitimately done in the name of revenge against those who had legitimately wronged him. He ended up with 200 years in the second level. Not good, not bad. What happens if I do something wrong? Well, to be fair, I don't know. But from the stories that I've heard, the souls of those who slight the boss are thrown deep into the gutter. Those who deems no longer fit or unessential are thrown to the wayside, either judged fairly as most of the clients we handle or just disappear one day, simply without a trace. That is if they really messed up. Some of you also might be thinking that these sentencing might be unfair sometimes. Well, it probably is, but I don't make the rules. I just follow them. Why does it take so long, and why is the process so convoluted and inefficient? The devil, and by extension God, can instantly judge one person at a time. Yes, the being that created the universe and is basically omniscient and omnipresent can only judge one person at a time. I don't know why, but it's like that, I guess. In short, they knew human employees don't have the same ability as them, that being mostly absolute authority. So they made a list of rules and regulations to make sure that no one is unaccounted for, and that all judgments are fair. Now, of course, sometimes I think that the judgments aren't harsh enough for some individuals, and sometimes I think the judgments are too harsh for some people. I had a case that I really think wasn't fair toward the person in question. A man came to my desk and he led an average life. He had a bout with drugs in his teenage years and wasn't the healthiest of people, and the way that he died was by his own hand. The guy was a father whose children were taken away from him after a divorce due to his propensity for violence and alcoholism. He was unable to see his children for 20 years, and in that time he had completely reformed his life. He had stopped drinking and smoking completely. He never missed a day when paying child support, and with the little money he did have, he sent presents to his kids every Christmas and for their birthdays. He sent them letters often, and he lived for his kids. He gave up every luxury in life so that he could afford that one present when Christmas came. After 20 years of this, he finally contacted his son and daughter, and they told him that he was a monster and that he wasn't actually their father. They spat on everything that he was and ever will be. They accused him of never sending gifts or letters to them and that he didn't care. In the end, it was his wife that simply threw away the letters and played off some of his gifts as gifts from herself. Soon after, he took his own life. His sentence, according to the point system that we use, 2,745 years in the 4th level. I understood why. He wasn't a good father. He wasn't a good husband, but he had tried. But alas, there are no second chances in hell, only suffering. I know that I describe myself as uncaring, but for the briefest of moments, I felt sorry for that man, as he cried in pain. He didn't care for the sentence. The rejection that he felt in life despite all of his work to fix everything was punishment enough, at least in my humble opinion. But I have a job that I have to do, and after he went into that elevator, I recomposed myself and uttered the second name to come forward. In the little time that I have to sleep in my apartment, looking out the window toward the perpetual moonless night outside, lit up only by a few red streetlights, I think about the countless lives that I had sentenced up to this day, how many scum I saw and how many forsaken souls I witnessed. I never was a believer in God, and I would go as far to say that I was an atheist. But in the end, what you believe in was irrelevant. The deeds you did and the consequence that it had on others around you is the most important thing. What you left behind determines your sentence and your punishment, or at least that is what conclusion I've come to in these 5 years. And in those perpetual nights, I ask myself, what will happen to me? I might work here for a long, long time, but it won't be forever. Every soul must be judged eventually. I was never given a proper sentence, so I don't really know. Even if I am familiar with the process, I can't determine my sentence. I can have a guess, but I'm never sure. The job in and of itself is torture. 18 hours interviewing all sorts of people. Even in death, insomnia is still a big problem. And to be fair, I'll never know if I did anything wrong until it's too late. The life in those cities is tough, even if it's purgatory. It is the devil's part of the purgatory. The food is scarce and hard to come by, sometimes even for us employees. If you wander the streets at any time, there's a risk that you'll be attacked by the starving people. They would either steal any food that you have or try to consume you. You cannot die here. You will regenerate any flesh or limbs that you lost. Some people have been waiting here for so long that they went completely insane. I'm immune from the threats from the outside mostly. The food comes to my door most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't. But during the night, I can still hear the footsteps from the hallway. In the 5 years that I've worked here, there were multiple break-ins. People cannibalized one of my neighbors. The guy's alive and well now, but isn't the same ever since. He was an employee as myself, but he was simply fired because of his mental state after the tragedy that he went through. Now he awaits his fate, and he can only hope his sentence is marginally better than the devil's purgatory. I have dozens of other stories of the various people that I saw and judged, of the things I heard and witnessed outside on the cold red streets. Some of them interesting and some of them not so much. But I have little time left to write this. I have to go back to work soon enough. Free time is a luxury in these parts. As to you, dear reader, there is a chance we might one day cross paths. One day you might sit in front of my desk and I would ask the question I always ask first. So, tell me about yourself. Tell me of your sins.